the chest, the arms, the abdomens and everything. But so on that day when we went to the gym, came back, we actually turned on the YouTube with that sound and on the sofa, and we actually rested on the sofa for half an hour or whatever. The next day, there's not much muscle pain.
Muscle pain, because the frequencies balance out the body.
Yeah, so like Lee said, is it actually the thing is healing us, or is it just a psychologically?
No, it is the vibration only, because when we do this, we do it to people who are resistant, but it calms them down. That's why there's a phrase on this planet that says, music calms the savage beast, or something of that phrase. Well, when you have these type of frequencies, it does the same thing. So I can play the frequency out loud and it'll tone people down.
So yeah, because just now what we wanted to ask is whether should we be able to hear it, or should we just be able to feel it, or if it's so low that we do not feel it and we don't hear it, doesn't matter, right?
All of the above. And here's the thing, everybody's going to feel it differently. Everybody's going to experience it differently. You two are not going to experience the same thing. I can guarantee it. So you might feel it through the hearing. You might hear it. Come in. Oh, hold on. Hello. Happy birthday, darling. For me.
Auntie Mel sama.
She's still good, Rachel? No. She's coming?
No.
Oh, I told you.
No.
Hey, when you guys come here.
Hello. You forgot the time, huh?
No. I was on the road.
Alrighty.
Oh, Pastor, you have two.
I have a, oh yeah, I work. See, this is workstation.
Yeah.
I'm gonna switch over here. So, well, I'm gonna sit here. She's gonna be my co-student today. I don't feel like moving, so I'm gonna move this.
Yeah.
I'll move
Okay,
this
no
way.
problem, Pastor. Go
All right,
ahead.
we're good. All right, testimonies, by the ways?
No.
No.
She's quite quiet. She's
not
not
quiet.
shouting anymore.
I'm not
okay.
shouting already.
Not shouting at the seat, right? I know, that's perfect. All right, Anton, any testimonies by the ways? Good to go? All right. As we get into our lesson, the decision to become one with the mind of God, and it's kind of a carryover from yesterday of the voice, learning to listen to the voice for love. This is the decision to become one with the mind of God. What does that really mean? The decision to become one with the mind of God. And you always hear us talk about, we are one. My Father and I are one. Greater is he who is in me than he who is in the world. Those connect you to the decision to become with the mind of God. But here's the thing. People have a hard time making the connection. In other words, when I said, call yourselves God, everybody went, wait a minute, Pastor, that's blasphemy. Yeah. Everybody resisted, didn't they? And I said, wait a minute, I didn't say big God. I said little God. You did not create yourselves, but you are connected to the Creator as his creation. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you're in the image and the likeness of your Creator, you have to be that of your Creator. He is God, then you would be technically God Junior, daughter God, baby God, little God, whatever.
Yeah.
So a lot of people won't choose to have that mind of God. And the reason why is, one, they don't know who God is or what God is. And then two, if they don't know those two questions, how in the world would they ever know the mind? Never be there. So what this does is to help us, not necessarily you all, But as you teach others, help them to become more aware of their connection with God.
Mhm.
To make a deliberate, conscious decision of, hey, you know what? I am just like my father in terms of my spiritual father. Just like Anson is you.
Mm.
Just a younger, handsome version.
That's so funny. Yes, answer.
The gene.
Yes.
But y'all are still, you still have the same DNA. He still has mom's same DNA.
Mhm.
So in essence, y'all are still one package, even though he has his own individuality.
Mhm.
Okay. So y'all have trained him to a certain aspect to have a certain mind. No fear, no poverty, no lack. Very successful at his age, at 27, 28, to actually be a homeowner, where most are still trying to figure out what they've done after 4 years, 6 years, 8 years of college, and still haven't landed the job, still on the couch.
Mm.
It's like,
Parents' basement, still parents' basement.
right. You've taught him how to manage money. Now, and we're not talking about you in the third person answer. I'm using you as a highlight. You're in a highlight. So what type of decision must you make to become one with the mind of God? What type of decision must you make? Well, first, let me ask a pre-question before this question.
Mhm.
Who is God? God is what? You,
Love.
right? In love and light, correct? Okay. So now, easy question. What is the mind of God? Love.
You are willing to be like God.
Which is God is love, God is light.
That's
Light.
right.
When we say light, what does that mean to you?
Pure,
Pure.
sincere,
Mhm,
honest.
mhm.
Energy, waves, vibration.
Spirit.
Mm.
Light is always associated with what? Spirit.
Yeah.
Anytime you're in the presence of God, there's the great what? Light.
Mm.
If an angel comes down, it's always the great light. There's my
Yes.
dad.
Mm.
So God is love and God is light.
Mhm.
Light shines on what? That you would perceive to be dark,
Yeah.
but without light, you cannot have dark, and without dark, you cannot have light. So it's the divine dichotomy of the two. Our job is to learn the balance between the energies, high vibration, low vibration. Okay? So now, question one, what type of decision must you make to become one with the mind of God?
You have to allow yourself, right?
You have to allow, okay?
To be
Willing to be like that conditions.
Like what we used to mention is we have to surrender to it.
Surrender to it, absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
practice unconditional love.
Yeah. How about being a deliberate? How about deliberately?
deliberate.
I want to deliberately make this decision to be one with the mind of God.
The only person that can be deliberate is when this person is enlightened or be aware. Most of the time, we are forced to throw the towel in.
Yeah. And a lot of people throw the towel in instead of trusting God with all your heart, with all your mind, and with all your soul.
Mhm.
But it's what isn't it easier to throw the towel in, so it seems, than to actually go through the process that people would call a struggle?
Yeah.
Then I would always say, rejoice in trouble.
Mm. Not many people like that.
Nobody likes that. Zero. I'm probably the only crazy person who, yay, happy, yay, joy, trouble, woo, bring more on.
Yeah. Most of the time they say, how I can rejoice in trouble.
And because now, watch this. And when they say that, do they have the mind of God?
No.
No. Are they even connected to God?
No.
Mm.
Are they connected with others? No.
No.
Because all they see is this here in this moment. And now I made this here in this moment this big. I made it grand. So if the bill comes in, most people do what? Magnify the bill. Oh man, the bill. Oh, I don't have enough money to pay the bill. Oh, we don't have enough money. Oh, they don't pay me enough on my job. I don't have enough hours. My job, my boss hates me. Whatever. You magnify the problem. So they don't have the mind of Christ. They have the mind of ego, which is fear, doubt, unbelief, uncertainty. Those type of thoughts. But when you have the deliberate mind, here's how the easiest way, and you've all said this affirmation, when you deliberately make the decision to have the one mind of God, it's simple as this. I come into the day
In God.
With
God.
love, for love, by love,
When you say God,
in love.
when you say love, you're saying the same thing. But think about it. That is the quickest way to deliberately connect your mind with God, because now you're telling yourself and your spirit, whatever I'm going to do, I'm going to be God doing it. So if I get in my car, I'm going to be God driving my car, having a God experience with the traffic with other gods. Make sense?
Yes.
Those are, and whatever affirmations that you come up with connects you to God, as long as it's in that vibration. Does that make sense? And it has to be a practice where a lot of people don't practice it. They'll wake up and then their emotions will dictate the day. Oh, I'm having a bad day. And then all of a sudden I go, how you wake up to a beautiful day that's brand new, like a gift, and you try to bring old things into the now, into the new. It's kind of like putting old wine into new, it ain't gonna work. New wine bottles, they'll break. Old, you know what I'm saying? It'll break. It doesn't work. And a lot of people try to bring their past into their now that they would call their future, and then they start having affirmations about that. So they're separated from the mind of God. So any way that you connect that way is deliberately connecting yourself to me, and the other way is me and my Father are one. I and my Father are one. However you want to connect it. Okay? How is this accomplished? How do you accomplish having the mind of God, or becoming to have the mind of God? How is that accomplished? And I always push this, always push it. You have to do it day and night. And a lot of people hate doing it.
Yeah, because it's a deliberate.
Yeah, but how is this accomplished? How do you get into that mind frame when life is throwing everything at you, including the kitchen sink?
Unconditional love.
You don't see.
Yeah.
Now, are we turning a blind eye?
Maybe you should. You
Transparent.
should turn your blind eye to problems, but focus on the good stuff.
Absolutely. In
Yeah.
other words, when you, and here's what we're saying. We're not saying ignore the problem. We're saying don't keep pointing at it.
Yes.
Keep telling the story over it.
Yeah.
In other words, if there's a problem, then you tell a better feeling story
Yes.
about the problem.
Correct.
And
Just
then
like just like sometimes we would tell other people is that we are not. It's not that we are ignorant about the problems, but we can choose to enjoy, to talk more on the positive aspects, right?
Absolutely. Oh, and that is a great word. Focus upon the positive aspects of your life.
But they want to pick at the painful part.
Yeah. But remember, I told you that if you have that negative thought, you're going to have a similar thought. And then now you have a chain of thoughts. And now guess what the body does? Emotionally, we have to follow that train of thoughts.
Mm.
until it either runs out of energy or something over here goes, hey, look over here, look over here. Bright and shiny, bright and shiny.
Mm. Yeah.
Distracts us from what we were focused upon.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like when somebody tells a negative story, you'll always have someone who's going to come and tell a worse story, as you would call it, up one on you.
Mm-hmm. That's nothing yet. You should listen to me. Mine is worse than yours.
Yeah. Only thing they can't up is death. Can't up death.
Uh-huh.
They have to die with you in order to up. They will go, I almost died too.
True.
Correct.
Right? So
Correct.
when you meditate day and night, that is stopping the thought of resistant thinking so that you don't have negative thoughts. And what it does is it helps you deliberately connect with the mind of God to have positive thoughts, to now use the 5 steps effectively, because that's what making the decision to use the mind is for, right? So now once you wake up and you say your prayer and you meditate and you do your morning routine or whatever, however that is, now that's the part that's accomplished that's going to determine your day. From that moment, from the moment you wake up, that is determining how your day is going to be accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? What is the one purpose for the voice of love? Trick question. It's actually the answers in the old lesson, last lesson.
Mm-hmm.
But think about it. If you don't really have a grasp of understanding this, then it would be difficult to teach others when it's time to teach them. Because one, if they don't know what the purpose of the voice of love is, think about it. What is the purpose of what is that voice designed to do to help?
It's actually to bring the highest satisfaction to our life, actually.
Right?
It's always inspiration, revelation, guidance to whatever objective you want to accomplish.
There it is. That is exactly the purpose. You said it best. The purpose of the voice of love is to guide you in your actions. That's when we say God in the positive aspect, not in the, oh, I'm gonna go be depressed, because that's an action also, but that's not the mind of God. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that one purpose is to guide you in the loving action of your decisions. So when you say surrender or let go of, you're really saying, okay, God, you have control of my life. I surrender. Not that, now watch this, not that we're robots, but now we are co-creating with Creator. We're working in unison with the Father. Now you can legitimately say, me and my Father are one, because when you ask, He gives it, you believe it, you receive it, then you get it, and you start over. Hey, oh, this is so fun. Look what I created. I love it. And then on to the next new shiny thing. Because after 6 months, is this really new?
No, all.
No, it's not.
All.
After 2 months,
It's all.
it's old. 8 months is really old. After that, after 8 weeks, you kind of really stop telling the new car story, other than the people, oh, you got a new car. Oh, yeah, I bought that. Yeah. You're not as enthused about it as you were in the beginning.
Yes.
Make sense?
Yes.
Ooh, here's a good one. What is the will of the Father? God, source creator.
Mm-hmm. To be loved, to be liked.
Whatever you want to call him. It's what? What is the will? What is the will of what is, now think about this. Did God give you free will?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Ooh, so now, what is the will of the Father?
To let you to be able to create.
Ever,
Yes.
yeah.
Without judgment, without condemnation, right? Without tyranny of a God striking you dead because you called yourself God. God is unconditional love. Do you think He's really going to be offended about that? Really? No. But then you'll have some Christians will say, well, in the Bible it says God is a jealous God and you should have no other God before me. That's what they read.
Oh.
This is what I contend with as a pastor with religious people. And I understand where they're coming from because it's in the book, but they don't have the revelation knowledge or discernment to have wisdom of what they're reading, to have understanding, because they didn't ask God. They read it, and this is literally, and that's what it is. So now I'm gonna act upon this right here with no revelation, no discernment. So now, how can a person love Trump when they can't love their neighbor? Everybody will point at him. Oh, he's a narcissist. He's this, he's that, he's an a-hole, he's blah, 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 blah. When did you pray for this man? How many have prayed for him? You see my point? So now when you go back to what is the will of the Father, it is the perfect freedom to choose as God whatever you want to create and experience. No good, no bad, no right, no wrong. We're in a place of neutrality because everything that's all created is all created in what? Love.
Love. Yes.
God only creates in love, which means you can only in reality create in love. It is your perception that you put labels on what is good and what is bad. What is sin and what is not sin. What is holy was not unholy. And have you ever noticed you always judge people according to your account?
Yeah.
We always do. Most judgmental people judge you according to how their idea and their perception of how they want you to be, including in husband and wife relationships. The husband wants the wife to be this way in the kitchen and in the bedroom, and then the wife wants him in the bed wherever, but they have their own idea instead of this is Sudi, this is Liddy. I can't make Sudi happy. He can't make me happy. I have to make myself happy first, and he adds on to that happy. She adds on to that happy. Because at any point in time, she can get mad because I left the container out, which is a pet peeve. or I went and spent money and then tell you, and we had a bill, and now we're behind. Now we're fighting over that bill.
Yes.
But I love you. Right?
I think we kind of got over that.
No, I know we have. But when you're dealing with the people that you're teaching, you're going to have those people that are in that situation right now.
Yeah.
And because you've already been through it, now you can give them loving wisdom. Now you can give them discernment because you get that revelation, you give it to them, it resonates in their spirit, they accept it, and now, oh wow, I'm going to accept what you said because it makes sense. And now I found the problem, I found the answer to my problem. Now I can go change it.
Yeah, a lot of husband and wife or relationships, and when the other party not doing like what we want to, then they want to split. Yep. You know, but which is very hard also, Pastor, because like in a husband and wife relationship, when the husband is not producing any income and it's only the wife, it's really very loop-sided, you know.
Well, that's a perception.
You know.
Does love look at numbers?
Yeah. So then they start thinking about getting a divorce because he's not good or she's not good. Okay, she's not doing according to what I want.
Now watch this. Like let's be honest. Is that the real issue? And I'm gonna be honest. No. The real issue is that is only the second part of the issue. The real issue started with lack of communication between these two. That's where the real problem started, right there. Lack of communication. Now, because there was no communication and nobody talked, now there was a perception of, oh, you're lazy, or you don't want to get a job, or blah, 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 blah. Now I'm the breadwinner and I'm not supposed to be in this position. I said, well, didn't y'all take vows that says for better or for worse? Oh, we're pastor, then they throw those vows out the window. I mean, you know.
Yeah, we're just saying it because we have to say it.
And most guys say it because they have to say it. Women say it literally, figuratively, and expect you to abide by that.
Yeah.
We ain't that smart. We don't catch up until later. And normally we never catch up. I'm just, and this is not for all men. I'm not knocking all men. I'm just talking about me. I was a slow one.
You know, he has to marry people because he's a pastor. He married people.
Now, Pastor, do you want them? I know this one is like a trap.
And when I tell them, they get mad at me.
You got to tell them first. And do you know what your vows means?
And I do more counseling than the I do's.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because everybody fails to really understand the I do's. And here's what's really interesting about it. It's always people who live together. They've lived together for years. And all of a sudden, I do comes and all of a sudden problem.
And they break up. Yeah.
Why?
Because now there's a perception that I'm bound by this paper.
Yes.
Now there's an obligation when you've already been obligated. Now you just change the perception of now I own you.
Wait. Who owns who?
Oh, and now that becomes the fight.
Yes.
Phrase on the planet. Watch this. Happy wife, happy what?
Husband.
Happy life.
Happy family.
But that's not true, you know.
But some woman came up with happy life, happy wife. Or some man came up with happy wife, happy life. Why?
Don't know.
To keep peace.
Oh.
You have to give way to your wife because she torture you all the time.
See? But we don't have a phrase. I don't have something for bad wife, happy husband. I don't have one. But you see the perception? Watch this. Here's another big perception that people go into, and then we'll move on. In relationships, they'll say, oh, we're 50-50.
Yes.
And I went, 50-50? Wasn't you 100% when y'all got together and said, I do? How all of a sudden you went from 100% man, 100% woman to, oh, 50-50. Where'd the other half go?
David.
The 50-50 is talking about responsibilities or
50-50. 50-50. If you really hear what people are really saying of this is their perception coming in. I'm only half worthy.
Oh.
Think about this. Okay, watch this. Anson, are you 50% of yourself?
no.
Are you 50% of yourself?
No.
Are you 50% of yourself?
No.
Are you? So where do we get the concept of I'm only half of myself? You see my point? So we have to change the perception of no, 100% man, 100% woman. You come in, you're still 100%.
You're supposed to be 200%, right?
No, you're still 100%. In this math, 100 plus 100 does not mean 200 because when you become married, you become what?
One.
How you become two?
Yes.
I'm 100 and you 100. We still 100. If I'm 50 and I'm 50, now somebody has to make up. So what if I'm 50? What if I'm 50 here, or if I'm 30 here and 70 here? Now we're lopsided, aren't we?
Yes.
Yeah, I think
What if I'm 20 here or 80 here?
You're talking about responsibilities or
Responsibilities?
any share, meaning in anything that they do the share
Okay, now
among themselves.
that is perfect answer. Absolutely. They come into it with that, but then again, when trouble happens, it's easy to throw the towel in.
Correct. Yeah.
I give up. So now what happened to the other 50%?
Gone.
So now, how did I come into the relationship? Did I come into the relationship whole or half?
Whole.
I come in and say, for better or for worse, that means if you lose your job, my job is to pick up the slack and help you. Oh, he don't want to do work. He's lazy, blah, 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 blah. sit around the couch, want to play PlayStation all day.
Yeah.
I can't deal with that.
Hey, Sandra.
You see what I'm saying?
Hello.
And you have people that actually go through relationships like that. So now, are they really 50-50? No, because one person has the idea that I'm doing more, all the pressure's on me, and you're doing nothing.
Yes.
Now, this is unfair. I didn't sign up for this. I want it. Now they start looking at other grasses, other yards. They always say the grass is always green on the other side. So they say,
Oh, I was thinking, what grass?
until you get over there, there's a whole bunch of weeds and dogs.
Same thing.
Sand.
Same thing.
Yeah, quicksand.
Same thing.
And this is to help when you meet people like that, and you will meet them. This is to help them. This will help them. It really will. All right. Beloved in the Masters, the way of transformation. Oh, your affirmation, I have the mind of God, which is the mind of perfect freedom and what? Unconditional love. The way of transformation then involves the deliberate decision to allow the translation of perception so that it becomes the one mind of one accord with the mind of God. It is informed from the depth of the silence of the love that sees the body, that sees the world, and that sees each moment only as that which holds the value which the Holy Spirit has placed upon it. What is the Holy Spirit but that part of your own right mind that knows that only love is real? Everybody get that? This thing. See? So I knew I should have bought it today while I was spending money. I got to scroll down. Go ahead, read that one.
Oh, okay. When any mind truly rests in that silence, it knows that it can no longer draw conclusions about what love would do, what love would express through it, or how love would use the particular tools or gifts of any seemingly individual self in order to trigger, to nudge, to uplift, to shock any other aspect of the sonship into desiring its own awakening. What it means?
Okay, let me catch up. My iPod is old, so it keeps repaging, and then it all the way back to page 1.
You see, he's laughing.
Go all the way down again.
And I was going to buy one today, but I opted out and said, nah, wait, this is still fine. And now I'm gonna have to go buy it, and I should have did it that way. Anyway, okay.
So what's this one? What's this?
What is the Holy Spirit but that part of your own right-mindedness that knows that only love is real? In other words, when in your spirit, you already know that you are love.
Oh.
You already know intuitively. When any mind truly rests in that silence, it knows that it can no longer draw conclusions about what love would do, what love would express through it, or how love would use the particular tools or gift of any seemingly individual self in order to trigger, to nudge, to uplift, to shock any other aspect of the sonship. When we say sonship, you are the son of God. You are the son of God. You are the son of God. Okay, or you are the daughter of God, however you want to express it. It is to continue to remind you the connection, okay, between you and Creator. So that answer, yes.
So meaning that we cannot, we only think of love.
Absolutely.
Right?
That's why when you do the unconditional love challenge and continue to do it, it's really hard to judge, isn't it? Really hard to defend it. Really hard to not have compassion, not be forgiving. Really hard. Really hard not to, really hard. Because once you practice love, then compassion comes, then forgiveness. You can easily, quickly forgive because that is love. Love doesn't hold a grudge.
Yep. Love
doesn't hold on to things that happened 5 years ago, and then when me and the wife get into an argument, she brings it up. When she's declared 1,000 times, and we've had 1,000 conversations about, you're not gonna bring this up. But as soon as the first fight comes up, it's thrown up.
Forget that.
Because there is no forgiveness. That person is still holding on to that hurt and that perception.
Yes. Yes.
So when any mind truly rests in that silence, what silence is that? What is the silence we're talking about?
Mm.
First of all, what are you silencing?
Your
judgment.
ego.
Yeah.
Your mind.
Mhm.
I got to quiet the mind. So when I meditate day and night, whatever that means to you, you are silence the minds. In other words, you're stopping that thought of resistant thinking.
Okay.
So now once you silence the mind, it knows that it can no longer do what? Judge anything, hate anybody, definitely don't want to argue with anybody, nor separate itself from another. Okay, that's really what that means. In other words, then you begin to desire your own awakening. What does that mean? You begin to wake up and really enjoy, wow, I'm no longer where I was 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I'm better off now than I was then. We use that as hypothetically. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
As you grow up, you do better. Now, if you pay close attention to what was just said, the implication is perfectly clear. Reality is one and unshakable, and only love is real. Yet the dream should never be denied. For denial creates what? Separation. You will hear 1,000 people in denial.
So when you say the dream, what is this dream referring to?
Your dream, your desire.
Oh.
What you desire should never be denied. What you create should never be denied. What you consider true love should never be denied. Okay? The dream, some people would say that's the illusion. You wake up from the dream. You wake up, you ever seen The Matrix? You wake up from that dream. You take, I think, the red pill, blue pill. You take the red pill, I guess. And then you wake up, and then some people wake up and they say, no, I wish I'd have took the blue pill. For denial creates separation. Only embracing, right, can allow healing, the healing that love brings. So when you surrender, this is the allowing. I trust you, Father, to take care of this. Make me whole again. As you well know, there are indeed many minds that are still afflicted, still harboring the decision to believe that the dream of separation is what? Real. You start telling people, oh, we're one, they're going to look at you crazy.
Yeah.
But then they say, aren't we all spirit?
Yeah, some of them say we are all one, brothers and sisters, but some of them no.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
And those are the people that I love. Why? Not that I don't love you all, but I love them more. Why? Not that I love them more. I love waking them up.
Yeah, because they need work.
Who put them in my path?
The universe.
I have law of attraction.
No, it cannot be.
Law of attraction.
It cannot be us.
Yes, it is yours. There, accountability. Didn't we talk about accountability? Accountability.
We
Take
never
account.
thought about it. How it can be in your path?
Because it's there to teach you to heal. Here's why. If you cannot let go of the dream, then you're still stuck in the dream of an illusion of separation from another.
But we're not thinking about that. How you can attract it?
Have you went through the experience? Can you teach? Yeah.
It's always like that.
I was an ex-alcoholic when I was in the Navy and drank for 20 years, right? Once I became sober, every drunk came in my path, even though I was sober.
Why so?
So I could teach them to be what?
Correct. When the teacher is ready, the student.
Oh yeah. Okay. Okay.
See, we think in one dimensional of, I didn't attract that because why would I attract that when I'm not? Because we sometimes forget that. We forget the places that we came from instead of going, this is why they're there. If a person is a habitual thief and you get a person who no longer steals, he can help that person what? Not to steal. Hey, here's the steps I went through. Person who smokes. My dad used to smoke for years and then he stopped smoking. He could teach other people how he did it to stop smoking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can teach you how to quit.
Right,
So
exactly.
yesterday at the non-profit organization that I went for volunteering, so I was surprised because somebody, a volunteer was talking to me, and I assume that when you're volunteering, you're all compassionate. But she
Not.
no, she makes she criticized another person, and then she was very harsh. So I kind of shocked. I was shocked, and then I took a few seconds to come back, and then I said, you realize that you have to understand that person's position. He's suffering right now. He's not in a mood to be considerate. We are in a better position to be considerate of him. And then she go like, wow, oh, okay.
Look how you influenced that situation. You taught her in a very short amount of time not to judge. This is what judging does. And just, you didn't have to be harsh like she was. You said it out of love and compassion because you don't want her to do it again because, one, it hurts your heart. Why would you speak about the person? You know, because when you told me the story, it hurt my heart. Because the harshness, and we want to wake the people up from that illusion that they're separate. So now, go ahead.
And then I realized, does it mean that when you're compassionate, you might not be loving? Is it?
Well, that's not compassion, is it? What she was expressing was not compassion. It was judgment. What you expressed was compassion. She let her ego take over.
Yeah.
My ego says, I'm going to criticize, which is what? Judging you. And not only judge you, I'm going to judge you harshly. So now I'm going to weigh it on even more than what it really needs to be. So now the more I judge you harshly, the more I built up this type of emotion toward being harsh to everyone. So now nobody wants to come around because the words are too harsh. And then they go, oh, y'all are too sensitive. And we go, why are you by yourself? Everybody's sensitive? No, we don't want to deal with you or anybody like you. And we don't have to deal with anybody like you. That is our perfect freedom to choose.
Yeah.
In this case, this person had the idea, the light bulb go off. Oh, wow. What you're saying resonated in my spirit to be truth. This is the truth that is true always. You know what? You're right. Wow. You just called me out in a loving way, and I don't even know how to answer that.
Yeah. She kind of like, oh wow, okay. And then she kind of stopped doing that, and then, you know, yeah.
Didn't talk about that man no more that day.
No, nothing.
Couldn't. Because you brought truth to her in a loving way, and you planted the seed of no judgment, compassion, forgiveness. Here's what love looks like. You showed her a glimpse of love, and she didn't even get the full magnitude of it. That's her heart.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yes.
See the voice of love. Oh, when any mind.
Okay, go ahead.
When any mind within the sonship chooses to awaken and heal its own illusions, love begins to inform that mind more and more and more so that its expressions serve the voice of love.
The voice for love has only one purpose, but to extend the dream into the illusion, to nudge the aspect of the sonship, yet sleeping, so that the entirety of the sonship can be returned or reawakened to the reality of itself as a creative conduit through which God extends herself. When any mind truly awakens and no longer sees discipline or sees specialness in the world at all, each moment is merely surrendered into what I once called the will of my Father. What is the will? Impetuous love. How can love operate so that it brings awakening to the minds involved? How can love that operates so that it brings awakening? How do we do that? We do it every day. Anson did it on the plane. You did it with the woman. I did it earlier today. Melissa did it earlier today. Sudi did it earlier. We've all did it earlier today. My dad did it earlier today. That's how it's because those people were placed in your path for a reason.
Yes.
And then here's the thing. When those energies come together, your job is to be the balancer or the master of energy. What do I mean by that? If somebody's depressed, then they have depression energy. So now they started telling the depressing story. And like y'all heard the sad story with the lady, everybody began to cry behind the sad story instead of telling her a better telling story. So that energy won. Make sense? That is indeed a purely creative process and is the only true value time can have. The awakened mind has no idea one day to the next what love will ask it to do and how love is to be expressed through it. The awakened mind knows that it is not the maker or the doer and merely asks in every moment, what would you have me do? The more that practice is developed, the more the mind is refined and purified. It becomes almost a spontaneous or second nature kind of thing in which the mind is so closely aligned with the will of God that the subtle nudges flowing forth from the depth of the self, from the depth of love itself, stirs through the conscious mind and meets no obstruction born of fear. This is what we talk about, no resistant thinking. Okay? For where fear has been devalued, love springs forth. Each and every one of you that has chosen to study and practice these lessons has already made the decision to become that one ever more deeply and ever more deeply. Make no mistake about it, the decision has already been made, and therefore the end is perfectly certain. When that mind that has made the decision to allow its transformation embrace the simplicity of its lived experience, it looks as though it is very ordinary. While the body lasts, you do the things that all the bodies and minds do in your dimensions of world. You perhaps find the body shivering against a winter cold or sweating in the summer sun. Yet in the midst of the context of the experience of your life, what is informed in the mind is not egoic desires of how can I get more? How can I avoid a certain experience of feeling? How can I make myself comfortable? How can I get others' approval? How can I be acknowledged as the great master? None of that runs the awakened mind. Each context is surrendered within the mind itself over into the will of love, and that mind through the personality, through the body, structures while the body lasts, becomes a conduit that serves the voice of love, for love. That one may not be understood, that one may not be approved of, and that one may not be acknowledged by the world. Yet rest assured, those who seek to be approved and acknowledged by the world have their reward, and that reward is to be acknowledged by the what? Insane, dwelling illusion. Can illusion truly acknowledge the worthiness of the Son of God? I'll let y'all each answer that, which is no. You already know the answer. Once again, each and every one of you is an inevitable journey. Now, you too shall have your reward, for there are those of us who know you and love you, and your acknowledgement comes not even from us, though perhaps through us, but it comes to that one that has birthed you in the good and holy truth. Get that? Everybody understand that one? Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Very easy lesson. Questions, comments, concerns? Nah.
Now we have to decide to be with this one mind with God.
Well, I had to get you to first say, I am God. I'm a child of God. One of those things, I'm only God. One of those things is the first step to deliberately making the connection.
Okay.
But people have put up this God whose tyranny, if you say something wrong, of blasphemy or something like that, there's going to be hellfire and brimstone or strike you dead. And that's not God. God is unconditional love. He loves you when you mess up. He loves you when you're doing great. He loves you regardless. He loves you when you're crying at night and nobody sees you.
Okay. But I think for those who still cannot accept, no, I am God, we can start with you and God are one. Maybe that one would be slightly easier.
Yeah. Or here's an even easier one. You're a child of God, and God loves you. Everybody can accept that.
Yes.
Very simple. You're a child of God. If that's too big for them, which is okay, and we don't mind, but all we're trying to do is make that connection. Because you all know you did not create yourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So you would have to be the little g and not the big G. That's only common sense.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just really to get them to have an intimate relationship with God.
Yes.
So they can walk and talk, play with God, trust God, go to God, listen to God, be God.
Mm.
What is God? God is love, God is light. If they keep it that simple, everybody would change their name. What's your name? Love. What's your last name? Light.
My middle name is God.
but I see a lot of parallels to Buddhism, because in Buddhism, every single soul on earth is a little Buddha that will eventually reach Buddhahood.
Where do you think I got it from? Buddha was my brother.
Yeah, right.
Sanat, Maitreya, he has many names, but we're the form. If you ever read the email that I sent, Loving Wisdom, Lord Kathumi, that's who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I am one of the four minds.
Okay.
That's why I know a lot of things, but I try not to scare you all.
Try me.
We do every day.
Try me.
Why do you think you tried to sneak up in my driveway and everybody was whispering? Because when you're in perfect alignment, we're all one.
Mm-hmm.
You think about that person, and all of a sudden you get a text or a phone call,
Yes.
or email, or some type of connection within that connection. And it normally goes, man, I was just thinking about you, or you was on my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere along those lines, and then there's that connection. There's the web of relationship. One day, matter of fact, I'm gonna teach on relationship.
Okay.
So people can really understand why we created relationship. Because people have not been in relationships for the purpose that we have created it. They have mixed it up. A lot of it has to do with religion. A lot of it has to do with culture. A lot of it has to do with family, upbringing, a lot of things. The man is the head of the house. Well, what if he's incapacitated? Then what happens? No, I'm not being funny, but that happens.
Yes.
Happens all the time. We hear it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Head of the house, all of a sudden he goes down. Not his fault. Life happens.
Mm-hmm.
So now do we look down on him or do we help him up? So now that's where a relationship where for better or for worse. Now what are we doing? What decision am I going to make out of that? You know what I mean? Ooh, I like this.
Yes.
Technology, man. New Apple Watch, new Apple phone.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna be on.
For worse, people only choose the better one. The worst one is like,
don't want to deal with it. Nobody wants to deal with the worst stuff.
yeah.
Nobody. That's why we always emphasize rejoice in trouble. Whatever you're going through, be happy in, because God can fix it. And two, it's only temporary.
Yes.
It really is.
Mm-hmm.
Make it?
Yes.
All right. Questions, comments, concerns? God's? Because we're unoffendable, because God loves us, yes? All right. If there's nothing else, then we will see you next week. We love you all.
All right.
Thank
You all for coming.
Bye.
Yeah, good night, everyone.
God bless.
Bye-bye.